Hi folks, I thought I'd come and give you another report. Back out here doing another walk and talk out in the country. I think it's kind of good to come out and check out the wildlife sometimes. But yeah, the world's certainly getting crazy, it really is. We've got lockdowns all over the place now. As I mentioned last time, Peru is in lockdown. We've got Belgium in lockdown, Germany in lockdown, France in lockdown, Spain in lockdown. I believe Dallas is in lockdown. New York, I think, is going into lockdown. We've got military troops deployed, expecting to be deployed in London, I believe, tomorrow. 30,000 troops, 35,000 troops is expecting to be deployed in Scotland as well. I've also heard from two different sources there are actually UN troops here in Australia as well, which is definitely very concerning. The state borders have been closed in many places here in Australia as well. Victoria and South Australia have closed their state borders. South Australia has closed all of its borders. Northern Territory has closed its state borders. Western Australia has closed its state borders. So far, New South Wales and Queensland have not yet done so. If they do close the borders between those two states, it's going to be very problematic for a lot of people. So I don't really know how they'd manage to do that. I've also heard that gun stores are being closed in the United States, which is a concern. And I also believe, I can't confirm this, but I've been told that not only are the gun stores, I'm getting a little windy here, I think folks, I don't know what this is going to be doing to the sound, but I believe that not only are the gun stores being closed, but the guns are also being collected and taken back to the manufacturers, or taken by the government, or taken by something. They're not leaving them there anyway, so that they can't sort of make their way underground. You know, what we're seeing here, folks, this is no takedown of the deep state. And the steps they're taking, the steps they're going to allegedly protect us from this virus are absolutely over the top. I mean, when you consider the amount of deaths from this, far, far less than what we see from even the common flu, the common cold. It's hard to imagine that these sort of steps could be necessary by any means. We've also seen a lot of people refusing to accept cash, which is predictable. This leads into their cashless control grid. We've seen legislation enacted all over the place, which is completely over the top. The legislation that they've enacted here, it depends on the state, but they can jail you for up to 6 months and fine you up to $250,000 for failing to comply with the Health Act, with the health regulations, the Health Emergency Act, whatever it is they call it. So this is a concern, and we've seen legislation going in other countries such as Denmark, where they've legislated for mandatory vaccines. I haven't got the vaccines yet, nobody's got the vaccine yet, but when the vaccine does come in, it will be mandatory. That's the way they've legislated it in Denmark anyway, and I expect that to come to other countries as well. I mean, they really are serious with this, folks, and they are really pushing for this to happen. I'm trying to get into a kind of a non-windy spot here for you. But they're really pushing for this to happen, and once it's all cashless, and once they get us all locked down, and don't think it's going to go away, folks, because it's never going to go away. These things never go away. They may roll it back a little bit, but it won't ever be rolled back completely. It never is. And the question you've got to ask is the question I asked on the last couple of reports I gave you, is, what are they doing while everybody's locked down? How much of this 5G control system are they rolling out? And what's going to happen once everybody is locked down? As I've said before, I fully expect them to shut down the internet at some stage. They'll probably say it's for bandwidth issues or whatever. Now that there's so many people at home and everyone's using, the internet, everyone's using Facebook, all the education's happening online, we need all the bandwidth for the kids or whatever, They'll create some excuse. And of course, everyone will be screaming out for 5G. Give me more bandwidth, Give me my slavery system, my electronic slavery system. But you've got to wonder, why they want everyone in front of their computers, why they want everyone locked in at home. It isn't just for the virus. It isn't because they care so much about old people, folks. They don't care about old people. They don't give a shit about anybody, these politicians. All of this has been done for their reasons, not for anything to protect us. You know, they like to convince the societies that they're stealing from, that they're doing all the theft for our protection. They like to convince us that everything they're doing is for our protection, but none of it ever is. So you've got to wonder what's going on while everybody's locked up. What's the real agenda behind this? You know, if they are taking all the guns from people and they are, you know, closing all the businesses down. I mean, the unemployment rate in America was down to something like 4 million unemployed. Now it's 14 million. You know, there's around about 10 million people have lost their jobs since Trump shut down all the flights and all of that sort of stuff. So the knock-on effect has been incredible. You know, people, wedding contractors, I mean, caterers, not just the travel industry, but everything. So many industries, restaurant industries, so many people who work part-time, you know. And of course their response is to put out a stimulus package, pump more money into the economy, which is simply going to cause hyperinflation. So, you know, as I've been saying to people, you should be putting what assets you've got into gold and silver. At least that's going to be worth something at the end of this, because the dollar certainly isn't. The dollar can't survive what's coming. But what we're heading for, folks, is this is going to be the worst depression that we've seen so far. This is going to be worse than the 1930s depression that we're heading into. But we could still stop it. You know, we're in a pretty unique position here in Australia because we could treaty with the original people of this country and step outside their entire legal system. You know, and you can do that in this country. You can't do it in any other country because there's all sorts of paperwork involved. But here, there is no legitimate reason for the Crown to be here, and there's no legitimate reason for the Crown to claim that their law actually works on this country that I'm standing on. And that's even according to their own law, because of certain things that have happened in the last couple of years, the Recognition Act and certain things that have been done. You know, there's been a lot of people who have been working at this, exposing this system for what it is. You know, they've gone and got the Privy Council in England involved, they've got the Queen involved and all sorts of things. And there's been all sorts of things come to light, even in the last couple of weeks. Stuff that I can't even share with you yet, but I'm hoping to have someone on the show soon who will be able to share all this information with you of what exactly has been going on. I don't want to share it because I don't want to step on anybody's toes. I don't want to get it wrong, and I want to make sure it's all gone through properly the way it's supposed to have gone through before I bring it to the public. But we are in a pretty unique position in this country to be able to use this as an opportunity to take this country back, and that's what I'm hoping happens. You know, we're cutting it very thin. We're cutting the opportunities very late. You know, there's a lot going on here, folks, that you know, a lot of places aren't going to recover from. Like I said, they're never going to roll this back once they've got it in place. It's not what they do. They never roll things back. It's all about getting to the point they want to get to, and it's just the steps they need to take to get it done. You know, they've managed to take a really, really big step with this. You know, this whole COVID-19 hoax that they're perpetrating. And when I say hoax, folks, I mean, sure, there's a seasonal flu, there's a COVID, there's a coronavirus, because there's one every year, you know, but I don't believe this one is any more worse than any other one that happens any other year. You know, we have so many people apparently die of the seasonal flu every year, and that's all we're seeing with this one. And the way it's being pushed is that anybody who dies of anything is basically being said, well, it's COVID, it's coronavirus. All the people who died, 99% of them had underlying illnesses, then the flu came along and they kind of died from the flu, but it was really the underlying illnesses. So, you know, don't believe the figures that you're being told. I don't believe anything that I'm being told by any sources. You know, I question, I mean, maybe there is some sort of a thing that's going on in Iran, maybe there is something that they've done in Italy to make sure that people that get sick. I don't know. There seems to be a lot of figures coming out of there, but I can't verify any of them. A lot of the people that I talk to in Italy and a lot of the people, the Italians that I know, they don't seem to be talking about any of this sort of stuff. So, you know, and with 6 degrees of separation, you'd think that you'd know somebody who knows somebody who died of this virus. I can't find anybody who knows anybody who's died of the virus. I'm getting figures put out by the media, but, you know, honestly, I've got to the point that I don't believe a word the media says anymore, not on anything. So, you know, I really wonder what's going on with all this, but what I can see is they're using this as an excuse for a full lockdown, and that this lockdown is not going to go away. They'll put it in place for 15 days, and then they'll say, oh, we need to extend it for another 15 days, and they'll say we need to extend it for another 15 days. It's just the way they go. And if you step outside and you do the wrong thing, they can just take you away. The police can just walk into your house and take your temperature now and say, well, we think that you've got a temperature, we think you should be quarantined, we think you might have coronavirus, and we'll go and quarantine you for 2 weeks. They can do that to anybody. I mean, a lot of people disappear with this, folks, and that's what I'm wondering as well, if that will happen once we see this lockdown fully into effect. If the internet does get shut down and we lose our communication with each other, if they shut the borders down between each state so you don't even really have an option of getting away, where are they going to take it from there? And if they're bringing in UN troops to do it here in Australia, well, they don't really care about Australians. So we're heading into very, very interesting times, folks. But, no stake in the outcome. You've got to realise that, it's all planned to be this way. And we knew this was coming. We've been talking about this for years, that this was going to be coming. So there's no reason anybody should be surprised about any of this. It's something that we've seen for a long time. And half of the thing that's going to make people sick is their fear of this terrible virus. The fear really pollutes your immune system, folks. I don't have any fear of this virus at all. I'm concerned about the steps the government is taking to protect us from the virus. As usual with government, the cure is always worse than the problem, but that's the way they plan it. But, keep your vibration high through all of this, folks. Don't go into the fear, don't go into the paranoia. The paranoia has just been outrageous. It really has. People not accepting cash, people closing their stores and people walking a metre apart and all this sort of stuff. They call it social distancing. It's not really social distancing, it's physical distancing. Social distancing is, not talking to each other. I guess there's a lot of that happening as well. But I mean, I'm quite close to you at the moment here while I'm sitting here in front of this camera talking to you. You may be quite close to the camera that you're viewing me on. So this isn't a social distance between us. They just want people to be distant from each other. They don't want crowds gathering because they don't want anybody to be able to foment plots against what they're forming, folks, what they're doing. They don't want anybody to be able to fight back. They don't want groups to be able to congregate. And, where it's going to go from here, folks, as I've said, it's anybody's guess. And the American people, I mean, you guys are the only people in the world left that are armed that could actually do something about this problem. And you could go to Washington and you could stand in front of the White House. Millions of you just go there with your guns and stand there. You wouldn't have to fire a shot. You say, hey, you guys are out of control and you guys need to step down or you're going to be in a world of pain. And these politicians would run a mile. They really would. But if you're going to sit in your homes and wait for them to come and get you, then you've already lost. I said months ago to people in America that ultimately, you're all truckitarians. All they really have to do is stop the food trucks, and it's anybody's guess from there. You can go and eat all the bullets you want. It's not really going to get you anywhere. You've got the Second Amendment there in case the enemy ever got in the gate. Well, guess what, folks? The enemy is in the gate. The enemy has been well in the gate for a long time, and the American people unfortunately haven't done anything about it. And they should. And you could do it non-violently. You don't need violence. But, if people aren't going to do anything about it, what's the point of even having the Second Amendment? What, so you can just collect guns and keep them there and hide in the dark and say if they ever come for me, I'll shoot them all? And that doesn't achieve anything, folks. It doesn't lead to freedom. What we need is a mass act of non-compliance by everybody. Everybody needs to just stop going along with this, folks, because it's complete rubbish. It's just bullshit. They're feeding you a fiction. They're using this fiction to cover up their own actions, cover up their own economic mismanagement, lock us all down into a police state. They wouldn't be locking all of the states down. They wouldn't be locking all the countries down, all different cities down, closing all the gun stores and taking all the guns off the racks if it was Trump taking out the deep state, folks. If this was, a taking down of the cabal, as so many people say, we wouldn't see it being played like this. This isn't any taking down of the cabal. This is a taking down of society, folks, and turning society into the new world order that they've always wanted to create. That's what we're seeing happening here. And just look at the legislation. Look at the stuff that's rolling out. And look at what's being done while we're locked away, the rollout of this whole 5G system. That's what I think they're doing. I think you're going to come out of this and find that all the schools are fitted out with 5G. Everything's fitted out with 5G. And, you know, like I said, this is never going to go away because we have coronaviruses every year. You know, every year people get a cold and they can just say, oh, it's mutated again, it's this, it's that. You know, and it's going to be this fear of infection that's going to do it. And pretty soon you'll have to have the mark. If you don't have the mark, then you won't be able to buy anything. That's the way they want to take it, folks. You know, so you could be in fear of this, or you can see it as an opportunity for empowerment. I mean, even with all the people in fear out there, there's a lot of people in fear, sure, but there's a lot of us who can see what's going on. And a lot of the people who have looked at us as being conspiracy theorists and, you know, being delusional for so many years can now see that everything we've been talking about has now come to pass. So, you know, perhaps we can provide a safety net through this time for people, and we can help them see what's really going on. And we can use it to bring down the cabal ourselves through simple non-compliance. That's what I would hope to see from this anyway. You know, if we don't, then it's just going to go where it's going to go, and I think it's going to get pretty bad. I mean, I don't think we've seen anything yet, folks. The plans these guys have got really don't include us. You know, they don't care about us. They may pretend they do, but they don't. None of the stuff they're doing is to, you know, protect us or help us. It never is. So, yeah, folks, we can, like I said, we can see this as, you know, the major lockdown that's going to get us, or we can keep our spirit up, keep our vibration high, and we can push back. And all we have to do to push back is learn that beautiful word, no. You know, and if we've got the strength of numbers around us, which we do, and, you know, if we are people who have united with our neighbours and who have a common focus, perhaps we can get through this. That's about all I really wanted to say to you today, folks, so I'll leave it there for now. Thank you for joining me on the air today. It's always a pleasure to have your company. Thank you for joining with these reports. I will try to get back to the radio shows soon. Admittedly, I haven't done it yet, and I have been saying that for a little while, but I will try to get back to them soon. I know Frank wants me to do some more shows, and I'm sorry for the people that used to listen to me on the radio that I haven't, you know, gotten back there yet, but I'm working on it. But it's difficult with all this going on. I mean, there's just so much stuff going on, folks. You know, things are changing by the day, by the hour, so it's difficult to know what to report on. And I usually record the shows a couple of days in advance because, you know, I can't do them live generally because I don't have the bandwidth. And then I've got to do the video for them. And things are changing so rapidly that, you know, if I record a radio show, by the time it goes to air, it will probably be out of date at this rate. So that's another reason for just doing these small reports for now. But thank you to all the people who send me so many kind emails. I've got so many messages too, folks. I've literally got hundreds of emails. I've got dozens and dozens of messages on both of my Facebook accounts. I'm sorry for everybody who's been waiting for responses. It's just been so difficult to get to them. There's so much going on, and I'm trying to prepare here in my own home. I've got a lot to take care of. There's a lot going on here on the ground, and I'm trying to keep on to all of that, and I will get to the messages soon. But do have faith. I will get to them. But thank you to all the people who do send them to me, and thank you to all the people who continue to support me on Patreon. I couldn't do any of this if it wasn't for you. I really couldn't. And again, folks, if you do have any assets at all, I recommend that you turn them either into silver or gold, or even into cryptocurrency. I mean, cryptocurrency will last through this. A lot of people who say, well, cryptocurrency is no good, it's digital currency, this is the control system. Well, folks, if you're shopping with a card, you're using digital currency now. It's just that it's fiat digital currency. At least Bitcoin is decentralized and it's outside that banking system. So, you know, that's a lot better than using, you know, your smart card to go shopping with. You know, if you're going to go shopping with digital currency, you're better off using cryptocurrency than anything that's supplied by the banks. So that's something to think about as well. But anyway, folks, that's about all I've got to say to you today. Thank you for joining me on this report. I'll bring you another one as soon as I'm able. In Lakesh.